I'm George Brant, and I'm the librettist for Grounded, as well as writing the original play on which it's based. Grounded is about Jess, who is an F-16 fighter pilot, who unexpectedly gets pregnant and has to leave the Air Force because of her pregnancy, and then re-enlists into the Air Force and is unexpectedly assigned to fly drones instead of her F-16s. And then the rest of the piece is about her attempt to make an adjustment to that change in her life. I wrote that back in 2011. It was a general interest in drones. They were a pretty top secret program at that time, and there wasn't much information about them, but I knew they were being used more and more in combat, so I really wanted to know as much as I could. And I was interested in both their operation and then the moral implications that they presented. And I didn't intend to write about pilots necessarily, but when I started to do research into it and found out that the drone pilots were actually suffering PTSD rates at the same rate as fighter pilots, I was really interested in that and wanted to learn more about that. And that's kind of when I started to see how this story could work. Paul Cremo, who's the head of the new opera development at the Met, happened to come and see the play in its original New York production, which was from page 73 and starring Hannah Cavill. And he came and saw that, and then the next day sent me an email, and he told me that he really hears an aria in here and was wondering if I might be interested in talking further about developing it into an opera. So that was how things started. And he had Jeanine in mind as a composer. I didn't know that for a while. So he said, is it all right if I show this original, so show the play to a composer? And I said, sure. And I was absolutely thrilled when I found out that it was Jeanine that he was talking to. And then we went through kind of a matchmaking process where she read the play. She and Paul went to see it, actually here in D.C. at Studio Theater. And then after that, she and I had coffee and then dinner and then talked further about how this might work. And then we decided to work together on it. Paul was great about giving me a crash course education into being a librettist. This is the first time I've given this a shot. I've written a little in musical theater, but not in opera. It was very interesting. I think I thought I'd be preserving a little more of the original piece, but because we needed to introduce all the characters that are in her life that she only mentions in the play, all of them needed a full life and a full three-dimensional world. It's a pretty new animal, I would say, the opera, comparing it to the play. The story is the same and the character's journey is the same, but how she gets there and the spectacle of it and everything is quite different. And the original play is actually only for one person. This is a huge broadening of that canvas as we're really opening up her mind and sharing what she sees with the audience. I'd say the play, I hope, my goal was that it has a certain rhythm, it has a pulse to it. So in that sense, the original was musical. However, this is obviously operating on a completely different level. I find myself sometimes jealous of what Jeanine's able to accomplish in such a short period. 3 notes and we're suddenly invested in their relationship, whereas I have to work very hard with pages of dialogue to achieve that. It feels like we have even more access to our lead character than we did in the play, because now, in the play we knew how she spoke, and now we know how she sings, because a lot of it is private conversations with the audience, which is a natural for an opera to make that jump into more of an aria and a personal relationship with the audience. It's been very moving to see these characters come to musical life and to see them, period, because in the solo play, I'm only seeing Jess, the pilot. So to see her family, to see her relationship with her husband and with her child right in front of me is very moving for me personally. It's been lovely to work with the singers. Emily is fantastic. I know Jeanine wrote the part for her, and I can see why. Her voice is just gorgeous, and then her presence is certainly very commanding, and you definitely feel like she could be a fighter pilot. Only 1%, I believe, of the Air Force are pilots. So this institution is all working 99% to support the 1% who fly. To get to that point is extremely difficult, to be in that 1%. And then only 2% of those pilots are female. So Jess has achieved something, rather awe-inspiring. She believes that that's how her life is going to go. She's just going to stay being a pilot. It's what she loves. She loves the blue sky. She loves getting up there. She loves being a warrior. The opera is a series of unexpected things that happen to her, and she kind of keeps trying to roll with each one till she can't any longer. I mean, we've seen the perspective of war from a male perspective for thousands of years, and I think the simple fact of having her be a female warrior is something that commands our attention and makes us lean in. And that married with this new technology feels very cohesive to me, that link between these two. Eric took quite a jump from the play to the opera. He's kind of more an everyman, kind of Joe off the street, working in this family hardware store in the play. And Jeanine felt that he needed to meet her on her level of American myth and hero. So we were thinking about how we could do that. And then as he lives in Wyoming, I think our minds naturally went to more of a cowboy feel, which then led to a rancher. I mean, he's the opposite of her, but then they share many characteristics. He's a rancher. He deals with the earth and the ground, and where she lives in the sky. So they're opposites in that way. They really see and understand what makes the other one tick, to follow that urge and to follow their heart, or else they won't be the full expression of themselves. And their generosity with each other, I find moving every day. I think it's what we all aspire to as a member of a couple. He's really able to recognize that she needs to go back to the Air Force, that the sky is an essential part of her, just as she knows that the land and the earth is a part of him. And then they have this child together, and they have to that's one more thing to negotiate as they figure out their relationship and how it can survive. 10 years later, we're still flying drones. They're, in fact, used even more than they were at the time. And we are still living very much in a surveillance culture, again, even more than when I originally wrote it. But it is something that I think is helpful to think about every now and then. So thematic, I feel like it couldn't be more up to date, which I think does set it apart a bit. And then presentation, we have these 3 screens, if that's even the proper way to describe them, that are quite massive. And I have not seen them in action yet, but I have seen the design for them, for what the projections are going to entail. And I think we have quite a bit of flexibility with them to either use them at their full potential or to zoom in and only have the image fill part of the screen. So I think it'll be pretty flexible from what I've seen. It should be quite exciting and again, open up this character's mind even further as we see what's going on inside of it.